All right, guys, it's Friday. Hope everyone had a great week. Let's end off the week here with some more gaming and Xbox news. First of all, here talking about Redfall. As we know, Redfall finally got that 60 FPS patch. And I mean, I say finally, but I think it actually hit sooner than a lot of people thought it was going to hit. People were maybe expecting this to be pushed all the way to 2024, but it did come out. They did a bunch of other things as well to fix Redfall, and now it is in a state where you can pick it up and play it on the Xbox Series X and S and actually not be held back by the state of the game, by the FPS, by some of the AI, by it being unpopulated when you're running around. It's actually a pretty good update. And if you've never checked out Redfall before, now would be the time to definitely check it out. I'm somebody who actually already played through the entire game with 30 FPS on the Xbox. And although it was not a great game with all of the issues that it did have, I did have fun with it. I was somebody who had fun with this game, even though when it launched, there was people in the Xbox community, people in the gaming community who all came out and were basically saying you weren't allowed to have fun with it just because it was released in such a bad state, which I thought was absurd. And now we're here where you're probably allowed to have fun because they did update it with the 60 frames per second. But people are thinking maybe that will be the end of Redfall and they're just going to abandon this game and move on. And it seems like it may not be the end of it, where we have some information here from Jez Corden in his Xbox 2 podcast. And it says that FYI, Jez has heard from some Bethesda people that they were talking about sticking with Redfall for years. They want to give it a redemption arc. And that has a lot of people talking and debating as to whether they should do this. I know there's a large amount of people who would look at Redfall and say, let it go, move on, put all your resources into the next game that they're going to be developing, and just kind of take the L on Redfall after this 60 FPS patch. At this point, people now, at least who haven't played it, will at least get a much better experience if they're jumping in for the first time. And then there's the other side of the coin where you look at games that had terrible launches. Think about Cyberpunk 2077, how terrible of a launch that was and where it is now. Now, you can argue that at its core, Cyberpunk 2077 is overall just a much better game, so that's why it could have that redemption arc. But I think Redfall definitely could have a chance to be bigger than it currently is, because we've seen some of the numbers too so far after they updated the game. They weren't very good, but the atmosphere is there. The co-op experience can be fun if you're playing with your friends, and there is a world that they've built. If they were to expand out on it, maybe provide some new content or something like that, it just needs to catch on with some people streaming it, some people posting some really interesting clips that get a lot of traction, and you'll probably see others jumping in and trying the game out and potentially growing it from what it currently is. So we will see what they do. As somebody who's already played through the game, if they were to release new content tomorrow, I would absolutely jump in and play that new content. And I'm going to go ahead and also check out the 60 FPS patch, just kind of see specifically how they've improved the actual world when you're running around and the encounters and the AI and those types of things. So I will check it out again, but if they were to add a DLC expansion to this game, I'll absolutely play through the entire thing. Because I mean, I played through the 30 FPS version, original launch on the Xbox Series X and S. Now, let's talk here a little bit about the Xbox Series S specifically, because this has been something throughout this entire generation that has always created debates. Whether the Series S has been holding back this generation. And I firmly stand on my opinion here that the Series S has been an awesome console, the best value in gaming, that you can go out there and pick something up like that for $299 and get Game Pass and get tons of great performing games. Of course, it's had its hiccups, but if you really weigh the scale as to the more positive events from the Series S versus the more negative ones, by far, they've had way more good games on the Series S, great performance, just positive stories here for the Series S, but it just seems like not many people talk about that. They only look at the negative side of things when it comes to the Series S and some issues that it has had. One of the major things with the Series S that developers have talked about that it has been a struggle, though, has been the memory. And John Linneman talked about the Series S, and here is what he thinks. He says, I actually think the Series S conceptually is a good idea, and I think they needed something like that in the marketplace. The amount of memory on board, which makes parity in certain areas really difficult to achieve. More memory would have allowed them to use like the 1x path for a lot of games, and for backwards compatibility, that would have been nice at launch. A pretty good value box. It's kind of like having your own, I kind of look at it like having a cheaper Xbox with Game Pass on it. It's like having your own personal blockbuster. And that's a take that I kind of agree with as well. It really is that. I mean, that's the point of the Xbox Series S. It's for people who just want to get into the ecosystem. They don't want to spend the premium price. They want to have something that has access to Xbox Game Pass and can download these games natively, and but probably aren't planning on playing this, caring about things like 4K, right? That's one of the major things. It's not going to be outputting 4K. They just want to be able to get access to a large catalog of games for the cheapest price possible, and the Series S does that. And the other side of the coin, where I think a lot of people look at this and think that it is an amazing value, is if you're playing those first-person shooters where you're getting up to 120 FPS. I mean, I have my Series S at my desk right now, plugged into a 144 hertz monitor, play Halo Infinite all the time on it, and you go to the 120 hertz mode, and then you just see how it runs, and it runs very, very good. I used it as well with the Call of Duty with the 120 hertz mode, and for me, a $299 console that can output that with these games that we currently have, and also getting access to Game Pass, is just something that really can't be beaten. So I think the Series S has been great this generation, and I will stay with that opinion until the scales completely flip, where every single game coming out is just such a bad experience on it, which we're probably not going to end up seeing. So I think my opinion that the Series S has been good is going to be safe for a while, at least. Now, Phil Spencer, he's talked a lot about Call of Duty. And one of the things that he's had to continuously defend since the beginning of announcing the acquisition of Activision Blizzard almost 2 years ago was, are they going to utilize Call of Duty to try to hurt the competition? Clearly, they're not going to be doing that. They can't now with all of the remedies that they have signed. And he expands on this more. He says, for Call of Duty players on PlayStation and in the future on Nintendo, I want you to feel 100% part of the community. We have no goal of somehow trying to use Call of Duty to get you to buy an Xbox console. I want the Call of Duty nation to feel supported across the platforms. And this is something that is great to hear, great to see. This was also on the Xbox podcast from a couple of days ago, where he did talk about this. We knew this was going to be the case. This isn't anything new here, but I think overall, hearing him say it with these specific words, he mentions PlayStation by name. He mentions the future on Nintendo by name. We know the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming up. The Call of Duty community, all in having the same game, essentially. I mean, there's going to be probably differences in resolutions and in FPS, depending on the power of the hardware you're playing on. That's just inevitable. I mean, even on PC, there's so many different pieces of hardware, but the community now will all have equal play when it comes to it. There won't be any exclusive content locked behind walls. They're not going to care about trying to entice you over with the Xbox version of the game. I think naturally, Xbox putting Call of Duty into Xbox Game Pass will entice a lot of people to go to the Xbox ecosystem versus PlayStation or Nintendo. And who knows, maybe they'll do something crazy and then offer Call of Duty as well onto other big subscription services like the PlayStation Plus. That's yet to be foreseen, but they'll probably want to utilize at least some advantage of owning Activision Blizzard. And the other thing is, they don't care where you're playing, even if it's on PlayStation or Nintendo, because they're still going to be making a ton of money off of licensing these games out to these major platforms. Nintendo and PlayStation are now going to literally be paying Xbox for Call of Duty, and then Xbox can take that money they're making from those platforms and reinvest it in Xbox and give us even more games. So it's a win-win for Xbox and for Phil Spencer, no matter how it's done. I'm just excited going forward that there's going to be no more content locked behind a specific platform like we currently have right now with the PlayStation 5. And we'll wait and see until we get more information here from Phil Spencer and from Xbox overall as to when these games are going to be dropping into Xbox Game Pass. One thing that is coming, though, this weekend is, coincidentally, Diablo 4 is getting a free trial for everybody on Xbox this weekend from October 19th to the 22nd. It says, additionally, Diablo 4 is free for all Xbox members from the 19th until the 22nd. Game Pass Core, as well as the Game Pass Ultimate members. Doesn't matter. You don't need those subscriptions. Anybody with an Xbox itself is going to be able to play for 10 hours over the weekend. I mean, This could just be a coincidence. This may have been planned for a while now, but obviously the Activision Blizzard deal has closed, and people are seeing this and asking, well, when is this going to actually just be in Game Pass itself? And I'm thinking this will be sometime in 2024. Okay, that's the Xbox news for today. Let's jump over here and let's end off talking about PlayStation. Spider-Man 2 is coming out, or it is out today. Reviews have been incredible. Lots of perfect scores, lots of 9s, lots of high 8s, all of those types of things. It's sitting very high on Metacritic. But one of the things that seemingly has been missed with a lot of these reviews are the features that are missing. Insomniac put out a major post after the reviews had come out and said that the game is fully playable via the disc. You can just put the disc in and it will all be there, but they highly recommend putting the day one patch, which is not something unusual. Pretty much every game now comes out with a day one patch. You don't really get the actual full game on the disc, or at least the completed game. But there are some other things missing here that I do want to mention if you're playing Spider-Man, and that is that they will be updating the game later. I think they say here by the end of October, or maybe even further than that. It says we're working on an update for those features, but they won't be day one. And they should be, so before the end of the year, they're working on these updates. And those two features that aren't there are going to be New Game Plus and replay missions. So being able to replay the single player missions. I'm assuming now until they update it, you're just going to have a brand new save. So that's something to keep in mind before jumping in and playing through the campaign. I mean, I'm excited for Spider-Man 2. I think it is going to be a great game. I've enjoyed the first one. I enjoyed Miles Morales, but the lack of mission replayability at launch does signify that this game isn't 100% complete as they are shipping it. This is something that hit Halo Infinite when Halo Infinite released. If you remember, there was no mission replayability, and a lot of people were extremely negative about that. You don't really see that whatsoever here with Spider-Man 2. Not many people are talking about this, but that is a feature that is going to be missing. And then obviously the New Game Plus stuff if you want to go through and replay after you have beaten it. One thing we are hearing as well about Spider-Man 2 is it is rather short, which isn't surprising for a first-party PlayStation game. They are, for a lot of people, one-and-done games. For me, it's probably going to be a one-and-done. I don't know if I would go back and do New Game Plus, but I think we're hearing it's about a 15-hour or so campaign for, I mean, full price of $70, and then I think maybe around the 30-hour mark or so if you want to go and do everything in there. Obviously, people are still playing through it, or going to be playing through it today and over the weekend, and then we'll see a better indication as to just actually how long this game is. And if you're looking to get a PlayStation 5, you may want to hold off if you are looking at getting the Spider-Man bundle, because this leak here may piss off a lot of people who've already purchased the Spider-Man bundle. Apparently PS5 is releasing their PS5 Slim with Spider-Man 2 as a bundle as well. This was a leak from the reliable data miner Bill Kuhn, saying that Sony's planning to release a PS5 Slim Standard Edition console bundled with Marvel Spider-Man 2 on November 8th. So you'll have to wait a couple more weeks. It will cost $560, which is the same price as the current PS5 model. But as of right now, if you don't have a PS5 and you're thinking of picking one up for Spider-Man, what they're going to be selling you is that Spider-Man 2 bundle that they always do with their first party releases. They bundle these games in with the consoles that are out there in the stores. So you'll be getting the fat PS5. So if you're caring about the size of the console at all, I would just wait here until November 8th when they release the PS5 Slim with Spider-Man 2. But that's it for me, guys. I'm going to end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you.